Tell your story.
Change the conversation.
Organized by students.
TEDxYouth at SHC.
Imagine a race between two runners. At first, the race might seem perfectly fair. After all, the runners are running from the same starting line to the same finish line, on the same track, in the same conditions. But what if I told you that one of the runners had been preparing for this race their entire life, while the other runner had never run a race at all? Does the race still seem fair? This hypothetical race situation mirrors what children face when entering school. Kindergarten might seem like an equal playing field, what with the same teachers, the same curriculum, and students being tested on the same exams. But so many determinants of academic success manifest long before a child has ever set foot in an academic setting. It turns out that exposure to words, ideas, vocabulary, all the things we can glean from access to books has a much greater impact on a child's experience in school than we might ever imagine. I was so fortunate to have parents who appreciated the importance of early childhood literacy and were able to provide me with books from a very young age. My mother read me my first book, the classic Moo, Ba, La, 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 when I was only 2 days old. Yes, only an hour and a half after we got home from the hospital. She opened a book. Soon after, more favorites followed, like If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, and Green Eggs and Ham, and The Very Hungry Caterpillar. All very good books. Recommend them all. This had an impact. This really did. And so even though it might seem crazy to read to an infant who can't follow the plot line of a story or understand the individual words, it turns out the exposure to books really does have a tangible impact. New science by Sally Shaywitz, a researcher at Yale, has indicated that there is, after all, a direct correlation between the amount of time a child spends with books and their performance on standardized academic testing. In her study, those who read for 20 minutes per day tested into the 90th percentile, while those who read for a mere 1 minute per day tested into the bottom 10th. It's clear that just as every minute spent conditioning on the track prepares a runner for a race, every minute with a book in hand has an impact on how a child enters school. So thanks, Mom. I really owe you, because by reading to me every day from birth, she set me up to have an advantage when I entered the race. I had a solid foundation for kindergarten. But what if that were not a possibility? What with the cost of books, it is often not viable for children to have books at home. And it is a huge assumption to say that even if a child might not have access to books at school, that they will get access to books at home, that they will get that access at a daycare or preschool. A national child care agency placed the average price of preschool up to $17,000, meaning that in some states, that's more expensive than 1 year of in-state college tuition. What if a child needs to attend pre-K for more than 1 year? Or what if a family has multiple children? That money adds up fast. And so through no fault of their own, some children enter school at a disadvantage when compared to their peers who were able to have these literacy resources from birth. In 2014, I started a program, today certified as a California nonprofit, to begin combating the literacy divide in my own community. Over the past few years, we have distributed over 1,500 books to children at local food banks, children who might otherwise not have access to these wonderful things we call books. Empowering a child through literacy is by far one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. Every time I see a child smile because they've understood a new word or idea, every time I read a baby their first book, every time I hear a student laugh because they've simply realized that reading can be fun, I remember how important it is to give back to the community through books. And so I would like to encourage everybody, adults, children, teens like myself, to ask themselves this question: what can I do as an individual to help children in my community get access to literacy from an early age. So go home and rifle through your bookshelves. Dig out those ancient boxes of dusty picture books and give them a new life with a child who otherwise might not have access to them. Read to your friends, or your siblings, or your children. Reach out to a local library or other organization. Just do something. Every action we take, every book we read really can have an impact. Whenever we all take action to help each child in our community get access to books, then, and only then, will we finally have a fair race. Thank you.